We got the Thursday Zoom press conference reaction. I am not Evan V. He's actually headed to Gainesville, Florida. Joe will also be heading to Gainesville, Florida here shortly, but he's going to tell us what Sark said on that fateful Zoom. Also, if you want to read about it, you can go to InsideTexas.com. You can join for just $1 and get a full year of access to The Athletic. Look at that. That's a fancy little QR code. If you want to pause the video, if you're watching on your TV, laptop, whatever, scan it on your phone. It'll take you to the sign up link. It will apply that promo directly. People have been really keyed into Emmett Mosley. Are we getting him back? Do we know? Is Sark playing games? We saw on the report it said questionable. So what's kind of the latest on maybe getting a receiver back into the rotation?
Yeah, it's from the way Sark's talking about him, it doesn't seem like he's talking about a guy we're not going to see take some snaps on Saturday. Who knows how many snaps that's going to be, especially since this is Florida. It's a swamp. It's his first game, all that different stuff. But this is a player, it sounds like Steve Sarkisian anticipates being able to use. And we've seen Dalen McCutcheon become a guy that's cracked into that four-man rotation. You have DeAndre Moore healthy, not on the report. You've got Ryan Wingo. You got Parker Livingston, the regulars. And Dalen McCutcheon's performed admirably, but he's still a true freshman, and you can see they treat him like a true freshman. Now with Emmett Mosley, it sounds like Sark, and he even kind of hinted at this, like thinks, okay, now we have a wide receiver core looking a little bit more what we thought we would have, more like what we thought we would have entering the year. I think there's a lot of excitement for Emmett Mosley just to make that four-man group a potent group no matter who's on the field. You can still use McCutcheon, reward him for what he's done. You can still use Ryan Niblett in the variety of ways that they've used them. But, you know, Sark's talking about Emmett Mosley like he's someone who he'll be able to utilize. And I think the Texas offense will benefit from it. You know, we've seen Arch look for a variety of guys. Sometimes those guys need to help him, and it sounds like Mosley's the type of player who can do that, not just by catching the football, but by blocking, by getting in the right spot, by being a person who can really help the screen game open up. And, you know, weather depending, we'll see if that's a big part of Saturday's action. But talking about him again like a guy who's going to play on Saturday, as opposed to in previous weeks when, of course, we didn't get the injury report, the availability report, but we also got he's close, and that's it. But Sark cuts himself off, kind of says something, didn't cut himself off today, and I'm looking forward to seeing number 3 out there.
Yeah, I think he can provide some surety for us. And then the big thing this week everyone's been talking about is the swamp going to turn into a swamp with potential rain, storm, and then you have internet guys like it's fine, it's probably going to be sunny, and you have other internet guy it's going to be a serious issue. So what did Sark say about the potential weather, but most importantly, just preparing for that? You still got to play, right?
Yeah, I think there are a couple systems in the, you know, off the east coast of Florida, and it looks like they're going to scrape that Florida-Georgia border, and then, you know, head to Newfoundland as storms do. But it's also Florida in early October. You know, it just rains. It is the swamp for a reason. Looks like the forecast has some rain. And I remember I went to, you know, social media, went to Inside Texas and asked, like, when was the last, you know, kind of gully washer? And I think, you know, a lot of people have memories of that BYU game in 13 and TCU in 14 and Kansas State in 15. The last one that may have been like truly affected by it, I think was the Maryland game in 2018, and that was in Maryland. So it's been a little bit, it feels like, since Texas has played a rain game. I know it sprinkled some against San Jose State, but it dried off quick. The heat evaporated everything. It worked out pretty quickly. And I'm just thinking, like, we don't have very many pictures of Sark in a poncho and in full rain gear and everything like that. So this may be the first time in a while Texas has had to face a little bit of weather. As far as preparing for weather, I mentioned this, I think, earlier on today's live. Like, as long as it's not tropical storm stuff, like real deal constant rain, as long as you're not Brian Kelly trying to throw it 50 times in that game, not a ton should change. Like, yeah, you may be a little bit more protective of what you do downfield, but you're still going to carry a pretty similar game plan. As far as just preparing for it, Sark just said that they always prepare for moisture in these games, like running backs, just for whether it's supposed to be 100 degrees and zero humidity and sunny, or whether it's supposed to be a swamp. They do practice with wet footballs just to get guys used to it, carrying the ball, throwing the ball, things like that. So you can't, just turn the Denny's Fields into a slop, obviously, but you can do what you can in practicing with wet footballs, things like that. They do that plenty. They do it regularly, not just for a 1 week thing. And they did that this week as they prepare to head to Gainesville. When you rep your team, don't stop at the jersey. Dollar Shave Club's collegiate razor handles combine grooming with glory, letting students, grads, and fans show their school spirit and style. From the sink to the stadium, shave with school pride. Visit dollarshaveclub.com today and grab your college razor handle and hook 'em.
Next up, man, we've been recruiting Florida pretty heavily. So we got homecoming for a few guys, and specifically one guy is from Gainesville. So how does that factor in? Because we've been going after guys in that state a lot in the Sarkisian era.
Yeah, Sark talked a little bit about that. Jarrett Gibson is from Gainesville. I believe he may have even been committed to Florida at one point. Went to IMG Academy, got Texas, earned his commitment there in the 2024 class. He's going home, and that's always really cool. And we would see that sometimes in the Big 12, when Texas would play at Baylor, there'd be some Waco guys. When Texas would play in the Cotton Bowl or play TCU, they're Metroplex guys. Yeah. Every now and then, and even in the last year in the Big 12, you played against Houston at Houston, and you get an opportunity to go home there. Don't think they really recruited Iowa or Morgantown, West Virginia that much. So neither here nor there. But they do recruit the South. They recruit Florida. They recruit Georgia. They're even recruiting Alabama and Mississippi. So there are going to be more opportunities, I think, in the coming years for some guys to have homecomings. And this is kind of one of the first examples with Jarrett Gibson. But it's not just him. Jamie French, obviously, if he's on the travel roster, of course, he's a Florida guy. His high school teammate is, I think, either Florida's backup or third string quarterback. So there's some familiarity there. You think of a few other players who have made their way from Florida. This sounds bad. I'm trying to think of it, but those are the two notable ones. They recruit Florida. They've got guys in the class committed from there. They're going to go to Georgia, go to Athens. There's some Georgia guys on the roster. They're going to be going all over the South. And because of that, they've elected to go and recruit all over the South, not just because of the way college football works, but hey, come play a game. You may get to suit up for Texas in your home state. We'll make trips out there, and it's helped them. So, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jarrett Gibson, especially with Sark calling him a very effective short yardage back, and of course with CJ Baxter listed as doubtful, playing at least some sort of role in this game as Texas tries to get some yards on the ground and do it in a place Jarrett Gibson should know pretty well.
Absolutely. And then going into the SEC, Texas picks hard games in non-con, and then, of course, the playoffs, national championship, SEC championship. Sark had a statement on what kind of constitutes a successful season now. So is 9-3 a benchmark for, hey, man, pretty good year?
So Sark was asked about this on Wednesday during the SEC coaches teleconference, and the gist of it is he was asked, is 9-3 a successful season? And he was asked that today for the most part. And he didn't exactly give a yes or no answer, because if he goes 9-3, Texas fans are going to be like, well, why didn't you go 10-2 or 11-1? There's a no-win situation there. But what the overall point was that, look, but after World War II, there were two just hear me out on this.
No, I'm with you.
After World War II, there were two consensus national champions who had two losses: 1960 Minnesota and 2007 LSU. In the first year of the 12-team college football playoff, the national champion not only had two losses, not only lost to its rival, not only didn't win its conference championship game, but all those things. That's the point. We had a 2-loss national champion right away. And now that the SEC is playing a 9-game schedule, and you have some teams like Texas who, when they hear that Power 4 requirement for an out-of-conference game, go schedule the big boys like Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, as opposed to some other schools that schedule, Wake Forest, or I'm trying to think of another week, or Boston College or stuff like that. There are a lot of challenging games, and you can be a great team and still go 9-3. And I think that's what Sark's overall point was. It's not saying like, look, just be happy with what you get. He was saying we try to win every game. If we could do it our way, we would go undefeated. But at the same time, like expecting perfection from national champions may be something that only the most elite of elite teams in this rev share transfer portal NIL era are able to accomplish. And it's so hard to do that. And I think that was his overall point. Not to say like be fine with 9-3 or 9-3 should get us in the playoffs, stuff like that. He said we're becoming more and more like the NFL. And if you look at the Eagles and the Chiefs the last few years, they had great regular season records. I think 14-3, or even 15-2 for both those teams last year in the Super Bowl. But also the Chiefs were 11-6 and went and won a Super Bowl, which also illustrates as long as you're playing good football in the playoffs, that's kind of what matters. So it's a big talking point around college football now, and changing from the idea where if you have 0 losses, you're the best, and we're going to vote you the national champion, to if you enter the playoffs on a hot streak playing good football, yeah, you can slip up once, twice, maybe 3 times in the regular season. That doesn't make the season a lost cause, because if you make the playoffs still and you're playing good football at that time, that's what matters most. And that's a huge change in college football. But hey, I think if Steve Sarkisian, like I said, had his way, he wants to win every other game from here on out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to be in position rounding the corner, right? That you just want to be in the lead pack, and then you can figure it out. But just get to the playoffs. That's the big key. All right, guys, go to InsideText.com. You can join for just $1 and get a full year of access to The Athletic. As usual, more great content coming your way as we lead up to Florida. Joe, have a safe flight. Everyone, thank you guys for watching, and peace.